How are you? Oh, I did it again. I leave the volume on the TV. Good thing it only happens to me first thing. Good morning, Lewis. How are you? Good to see you. Give me the thumbs up that everything sounds clean and clear and all good. Look at that. I mean, I'm on time. I took my watch off, but I got my little intro picture now. Every week, I get a little bit closer and a little bit closer to getting this where I want it to be. Eventually, on that intro picture, my plan is to have a countdown timer so that you can pop at it. I can start it early to be ahead and check and make sure everything's working, and you'll see the countdown timer going and all that good stuff. I'm gonna run over here and just say good morning real quick to make sure it's working on my end for my replies. And we'll post a good morning in there. All right. We're going to have fun today. I haven't worked with a big chunk of wood in quite a while, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. I need a chisel, so I'm going to step over here and grab a chisel. Chisel. Yes. Chisel. Thank you, Lewis. Appreciate the heads up that things are working and sounding good. I was doing something with this chisel the other day out here, and it was sad. I looked down. Oh, I was chiseling the resin out before last week, and this chisel, not that it's a fancy one or anything, but it was so beat up. And I thought, I got a grinder right there. I should go fix that thing. So I think we're good now. I got my Carter & Son tools sharpened up here a little while ago. I think I'm ready to go with that. We're going to mount this piece on a faceplate today. That's how we're going to start. Now, like I was saying, I don't know if you saw the intro earlier, this is a beautiful piece of maple, Ambrosia Maple, but it does have some issues. It's got a big knot hole. Where you at? A big old hole that goes through it, goes down in there, and goes around the corner. We've got a bark edge. That one's not really a big deal. We've got a knot hole with splits right here in the side, right in the middle of things somewhat. Gonna have to figure out what to do with that. This piece is, I don't know how old it is. It's got to be 3-4 years old, I'm guessing. It's got a number of splits and checks. We were right on the pith. If you can see here, right on the pith. Now, let me pop that in the overhead. I almost got my remote up here this morning, sitting right there. Where I could punch buttons, but I didn't quite get there. And so I said, well, I'll just wait. Let's get this zoomed in, adjusted. I'm not quite 100% ready yet, am I? But I'm working on it. So I want you to be able to see, although that fills the frame pretty well. So you can see this was the pith. Right there. So this is a waste not want. I mean, there's the pith. There's the bark edge. Bark edge here. This thing's heavy too. And bark edge here. So I wasn't wasting any wood. Now, when we're out this close to the edge of the tree, we also run the risk of getting some checks and splits in there. But it does look like it's got some nice patterns in it. So it should be a nice piece to turn. As usual, got questions. Oh, I see people are jumping in. Good morning, Mr. Hornung. How was Chicagoland? Arthur, good to see you, Arthur. Lorianne, great to see you. Glad folks are coming out. Like I said, it's like 55 degrees here now. I'm not complaining anymore about the heat and the swelter. Matter of fact, my feet are a little cold. But I'll take that. I'll take that every time. So we're going to mount this guy with a faceplate. So let me go, ba-boom, back overhead. And I went to the end, didn't I? No? Yeah, I did. I'll learn these buttons one of these days. There we go. From when this was cut on the bandsaw, it was cut on the Carter & Son circle cutter. And you end up drilling a little 1/4-inch hole. And I happen to have their center finder. There's a Carter & Son, or Carter Products center finder. And it goes right in your faceplate. And Spiralcraft happens to sell these things. They're great. It threads right into your faceplate. Now I lost the little pin. Imagine that. So I've got a screwdriver. And I just go find that hole. So now my faceplate is centered with when this blank was cut round. Now it's not round anymore, and we know that. But at least it's centered to what was the center of the piece. And that gives us a good head start. And I've got my drill over here. And I've got my number 10. Number 10 1.5" screws. Now these are a Spax, but I have, of course, misplaced my Spax drive. I seem to misplace a lot of things. I don't know who else, if anybody else has that problem or if it's just me. So I have to use just a number 3 Phillips bit. Not perfect, but it will get the job done. We'll get 2 of these in here to get ourselves started. And you hear that Phillips bit's not the greatest. They tend to kind of click and don't grab as well. Now we can take the screwdriver out of there. High tech, like always. Arthur, you couldn't find me, buddy? Were you looking for me all over the internet and you couldn't find me? Be my luck that his battery's going to be dead today. And somewhere around, so I think it's over in the other shop, is the charger. We'll deal with that. It's amazing, and those of you who hang out with me here regularly know, it's amazing how much it takes to put one of these together. And it sounds like I may be chasing a battery before I'm done. That might be when we have the intermission here. Because I was working on a bathroom upstairs with this. Seems like it's time for house chores. Ah! I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can. I can believe it. I can indeed. Let me look here real quick. I apologize. Of course, this is not subpar for me. Let me run next door, and I will be right back. But I can talk to you while I'm going next door, because it's not very far. And grab my other battery. That's the beauty of having a beauty and a curse, having a film studio and having a workshop. I don't have to keep everything in the studio. But then again, inevitably, something that I need is over in the workshop. But at least it's not very far away. Now we're back into money. I was in Lowe's this weekend. I showed about another. I almost did. I was buying tile stuff though. I had a box of screws because I hate these that don't do what they're supposed to. But nonetheless, let me fix this one right here real quick too. I don't like that. There we go. All right, so we've got our screws in. Not worried about the length. I want the strength on this guy. I want nice and strong grip. I don't want this going anywhere. Now, I didn't pull out the big 18-hole, 6-pound, 6-inch faceplate for this one. But this will do the trick. This guy is still pretty stout. And again, I'm pretty sure we're not going to make a bowl out of this. But I haven't decided what I am going to make. Whatever it is, it's going to be fun. It's nice to have a full-size lathe back in here again. I was running on the mini for the longest time. Okay. And bring our tailstock up. Let that find our little center there. Now, the question is, question of the moment, headstock wasn't tight. I was cleaning up a little bit around on the lathe, believe it or not. How fast or slow will this guy turn? As usual, I'm going to go ahead, and that's why I got that chisel. I'm going to go ahead and pop this piece of bark off of here right now, because that was coming off anyway. Put that in the scrap bin. How fast or slow will this thing turn? We want to turn it as fast as we can, safely, without the lathe walking across the room. So, reach over here and plug ourselves in. Make sure my speed is set all the way to 0 on my controller. Make sure nothing's hitting anywhere. Let's see what's going to happen on this guy. So we wobbled really good around 200, 300. Now we're at about 650. Yes, we've got some vibration because it's out of balance with the bark edges here. This isn't horribly out of round. It's not real bad. I'll give you the end view. You can see it's not shaking and it's not too far out of round. I'll give you the overhead. Again, I should zoom that out. I'll stop this so that you can see. Go ahead and slow that down. You can see that vibration there in the middle. Let's get this zoomed to where you can see what's going on the wrong way, Bradley. There we go. Okay, so it looked like about 625, 650, somewhere in there is what it was going to do. So first things first, we got to get her in balance a little bit better. Going to get it round. We got a little hump here. Going to get these two corners evened out, get this backside squared up, or I'm just going to curve it, just cut these corners to where I'm in balance. Then with a project like this, with these cracks, with the holes, and this split into the pith in here, I'm going to be making my decisions as I go on what I'm going to do. So it's one of these works in progress. Like I said, I don't have a plan for this. I'm going to play with it, watch and see what develops, see how bad these cracks are, make sure I stay safe. I'm not going to get hurt. Don't want to get hurt at all. Let's see what shape the goggles are in, speaking of safety and not getting hurt. Get those cleaned up. It's a wonderful Monday. It's a wonderful... And you know what? My wife is working in town today. I get to have lunch at the Mexican restaurant with my wife when we're all done here today. So I'm really looking forward to what's going on. It's a great Monday. And, you know, when I first came up with the idea to do these on Mondays, people said, "You're crazy, Monday's a horrible day." I thought it's a perfect way to start the week. Makes me have to get up early, get rolling, make sure I'm all good to go. All right. So, with these holes in view for you, this hole, so it's a nice feature. I had to chase a roach out of it yesterday. But as we are cutting through here, this is going to be a spot where the tool is going to want to jump around, bounce and jump and give us a hard time. And that's why a lot of people won't mess with a less than perfect piece of wood. But it doesn't bother me. I just take the abuse. So I think, trying to decide which camera I should leave it on for you. I think I'll start with the overhead. View. And I'm going to take a 5/8 bowl gouge, Carter & Son, 5/8 bowl gouge. As you can see here, freshly sharpened up. I've got the 16-inch handle on it. I also have another one over here with the 12-inch handle on it and a slightly different grind to it, if I decide I want to change. But my first mission, I'm just going to get this guy round. Now this is the Colt tool rest that doesn't really ever kind of sort of go low enough. But I'm going to move my banjo in place and my tool rest in place. Make sure nothing's hitting anywhere. Everything's all good and clean and clear. If you have any questions this morning, just pop them in here for me. All right. Hopefully it stays cool enough I don't fog up. At least I'm not doing resin today where I have to wear the second mask, the dust mask underneath. So we'll go into this guy, go into the Jason mask. You all know the Jason mask, right? I love this thing, drilled extra holes in it. Makes it all good to go. All right. Let's fire this guy back up. He says, let's fire this guy back up. So, find the speed it's happy at. That's about 680 or so. Okay. Making sure everything's all snugged up. Good morning, Greg Wallace. Thank you for coming by. I'm just going to work with the tip of the tool. And I'm just going to come across here easily and work on getting rid of that ghost image that you can see. You can see the best right in there. Just the tip of the tool. Just to start to get the corners off of it. Okay, I'll start to use a little bit more of the tool as it's getting smaller. A little bit of the wing. Still kind of bouncy. We've got hard and soft wood in here. Draw it back across. Again, just roughing this guy out. Now it's starting to use a little bit of bevel. And I'm not worried about making it perfect or anything. I just want it round because we're going to carve 90% of this thing away. Okay, so let's see what we got here. See if we were cutting all the way around. Cutting, cutting, cutting. You can start to see some of the pretty pattern in this. We weren't cutting right here yet, so it's not quite round in here. But I'm going to go ahead and take away, start to work on these corners. So I'm going to move my banjo down a little bit further, reposition my tool rest, so that I can actually work my way around this corner. Because this will help immensely for our balance. Because we're still shaking pretty good. Now this, like I said, this wood is really dry, and that hole, you know, this knot is really hard, and then the other parts of the wood are going to be much softer. So that's why we're getting a lot of noise and a lot of bounce. But we'll get this guy squared away here. No, not that much, Brad. There you go. So I'm going to concentrate now on this corner right here, okay? And I'm going to switch over to the end view for you so you can see as I come around there. Now hopefully that will stay in focus. That end view camera sometimes gives me a little trouble. Little support of the bevel. The tool's not cutting yet. And then we'll pick up the cut. We'll just come in here easy. Start to take this corner away. And these two sides are not even. Now, one thing, I don't think you can see it in either view. I can see the ghost image of what's solid, and it's way back over about here. So from here to here is what's got the scoop to it. I'm going to lower this tool rest a little bit. This is the one that you can drop it just about all the way down. I'm going to move it in a little bit as well. Get a little bit closer now. I start to take that corner off. You can see that's a pretty big chunk, a pretty big skip right there. as is that one. Frederick, how you doing? Good to see you again. Someday I might get back up your way. Hope you're doing well. Again, even with this bumpiness, you can see I don't need a death grip on the tool. I just got a couple of fingers on top. Alright, now that I've got that, a little bit of that corner taken away, I'm going to come around here and come in from the inside out and see how she works for me. Now I got this hole right here, okay? And what's going to happen when I'm going to lean into this, it's going to put my shoulder in the way, so I'm going to go to the overhead for you. But this hole is going to make the tool really want to jump, and so I've got the hole right here, and I've got the pith right there, or this knot hole, which actually I think is part of this. So this is going to open up a whole new dimension as I turn in there. Mr. Knuckles, what you doing, my man? Good to see you, brother. All right, let me put this on overhead so that my shoulder doesn't get in your way. All right. I go back and I review the streams, and I see my head's in the way and my shoulder's in the way sometimes. One of these days I'm going to get that figured out, how to stay out of my own way. Bring her back up to speed. Okay. Just gently working in here. As we're cutting down the grain now, it cuts a lot nicer too. But we got that big old hole coming at us. Stop, and I'm going to move my tool rest in. See that hole. So look at this hole. I'm going to change camera for you. Now, and you can see just how big this feature in the end is here. That's a big old knot hole in there. Now, if we wanted to do a resin kind of fill, we could design at this point. We could stop and think about it, and we could say, hey, I don't think I'm going to, but we could say, let's fill this big old hole with resin and make it part of the piece. And I'll change over here to the front for a second. We could fill this guy, but we'd have to stop. Now, if I was going to fill this hole, I would use the Chromacraft gel epoxy resin, because I can fill these big gaps, and the gel, especially on a cold day like this, I could put maybe a little piece of tape right across here, and I could pack that full, and it wouldn't run out. Even if I put it up as I put it in the top here, that would not run out. That would be a great thing. Let me show you again from the end what I'm talking about. If I put a little piece of tape across here, just to keep it from running out there and up to that point where my finger is, I could pack this whole thing full, and that's a good 1.25 inches inside there, but with a little dam right here. The gel resin really is a gel, especially when it's cool like this, and it'll stay right in there. It won't run out the sides. It's really fantastic stuff. So I could fill that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave that alone today. What kind of grind do I have on my gouge, Frederick? I am old school. All my gouges are ground basically at 45 degrees. I stay kind of right in the middle of everything. Not real I'm not real high end. That's what I learned to use with the 45. The wings are ground back. Now this one, I have the wings with a little bit of a curve on them. Some people like the curve. Some people like them flat. I have different ones ground at the same angles, more or less, but ground differently. Like my little 1/4-inch gouge this morning. Let me flip over here. It's ground. It's a little detail tool for me, so I'm going to go overhead. And let's see if you can see this. I'll zoom way in on this one, if I can reach up here. I need to make this camera closer. And so you can see that that is ground. Get it in the right angle. Quite flat, actually. Okay? I'm trying to, it's a little teeny tool. Get the light on it right. Find a way for you to see that. Whereas this guy, you turn it over, you can see how he's got a curve across the top. He's got an angle. And people have different preferences, and I know grinds are a big issue. A lot of people, there's a 1,000,001 grinds, just like there are 1,000,001 opinions about things. And I keep mine pretty simple, and I'm used to them. It's what I got used to, so I haven't changed too much on that. If that helps you at all. Hey, yeah, you can see that. I'm looking in the replay now. Or not replay, but there's the 20-second lag, so you guys can see. So, Frederick, again to your question, basically 45 degrees on my bevel, plus or minus. That's where they start out, and that's where I kind of keep them. They get a little bit more one way, a little bit the other way. I never really got too caught up. Some of the other grinds might be better. It's just what I'm comfortable with. And if you find one that's better for you, go with it. When I get some gold gouges sometimes when they first come to me and they're ground differently, and my muscle memory doesn't work with them. So instead of, I don't know, maybe it's old school or even hard-headedness, instead of trying to learn a different grind per se, I just go ahead and regrind the tool to what I know, and I go off and I'm happy. Okay? But that's me. That's just me. Everybody needs to find their own way in that. So, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to carve this all away? What do I want to make out of this piece? I want to get this. I'm almost out of here. This is almost all gone. That section right in there. Let me go to. See, I can look. I'm looking at a big monitor out in front, and now I can always tell which one looks best. Modern technology is wonderful. This section is almost gone. This one, I still have quite a ways to go. Okay? So I'm trying to decide, and I'm thinking in the back of my mind the whole time, even while I'm talking and turning, what am I going to make out of this guy? You know, what am I going to make? I don't know. I kind of want to make something funky looking out of it. And part of me was thinking about leaving this in, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But I want to get this paired away, which will still leave some of this. I'm going to get this back in balance. Then I'm going to come in here, and then I'm going to start and clean this up for real, and I'll start to decide what it is I want to do in a loose fashion. Okay? Oh, boy, did I mess up. I took the lid off of my ice, and now I'm going to fill it full of wood chips. Off of my drink. Here, I'll put it behind the computer monitor. All right, so let's go back to the overhead, I believe, so that my shoulder doesn't get in the way. It's so much fun to get out here in the shop on Mondays. You know, I spend all week in the office in there working on the e-com store and all the stuff that goes with that. This is my time to turn. It's a lot of fun. This is my escape for a few hours. Okay, here we go.
You can tell where there's no hole anymore, and I need to move that tool rest around. So let me bring this slower down, turn her off, bring this around the corner. Now if I took the tailstock out of the way, I love that hole, I love this grain. If I took tailstock out of the way, I'd have great access, but even though chances of breaking 8 screws are thin, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to leave it there just to be safe. Bring my speed back up. There we go. And we're in overhead, okay. That hole sure makes it want to bounce, but that's all right. Let me think about this. What do I want to do in this area? That's getting pretty small, so I don't really need to go past there, really, which is all right in where this hole is. So I'm going to kind of make myself a visual reference here. And I'm just going to take this section away at the moment, just right in there. So I'm just going to concentrate on that. Just right in through here. So you can see how I'm just cutting some of this wood away that I know I'm not going to use, but I'm not changing anything out here yet. I'm just getting rid of this corner. Okay, you see what that did for me? Alright, just a little bit more to go right there. Still have a bit of our natural feature there. And I got a little bit right in here. Okay. So, and you can see things are getting much smoother. You know, we're turning almost 800 now. Let me come in here and take a little bit more of this right in here away. Let's go ahead and come across here. That's all bumpy. Let's get that flat just for fun. You got to do it at some point. Might as well get after it. Alright, let's see what's going on in here. How much do we have left? We've still got our hole right in the middle of things. We've still got that. This is going to be our tenon anyway. So we can just take some more of that out of there. We'll just keep right on hogging some wood. That's all I'm really doing now is getting some of the nastiness out of the way. So you see some spalting starting to show up here. Not in that camera, you don't. If I go back to the end view, you'll start to see this because this has been around a while. Along with the ambrosia, we've got some spalting starting to show up. Not a lot, but a little bit of it. Always makes for a nice extra on things. So when you get the spalted ambrosia maple, it's pretty nice. Alright, I'm going to take some more of this away in here, because it's just all going to go away and be of no use to me. A big old hole and all that. You can tell by the sound, when things are starting to smooth up for you. Let's take a look at what we got going here. I can take my mask off for just a second. Fogging a little bit. Hey, I could make a hat today. Except that I've never made a hat and I don't have the jigs. Jerry Meesemer, where are you at? Come over here and show me how to make a hat, buddy. I know he's doing birdhouse. Jerry's doing 200 birdhouses for North Carolina State Magazine right now. That's a lot of birdhouses. I was watching his video on his pneumatic drilling device just yesterday. Okay, so that is pretty close to getting in my area of my tenon. That is still there. Starting to think about what do I want to do with this guy. I think I'll take a little bit more. This is in balance now, so I'm not worried about that. There's a little nick right there. I'm taking just a little bit more off of that. And then I'll switch, probably go to the end camera for you as soon as I get out of the way on the bottom here. As I think out loud about what we're going to do with this guy. Yeah, we're running much, much smoother now. Oh, I think I'm probably out of the way in that picture. Let me zoom in on this a little bit closer so you can see. Give you a little twist of the camera. All right. I'm just kind of cleaning up this area down here. Okay, I'm gonna leave that fairly good size. Let's take a little bit more away. So that's our tenon area, but it may also end up being part of a base. I've kind of got this idea. Like I said, I'm not planning to make a bowl today. So this may end up being tenon and base, a base for this, okay? Because I've got a bunch of wood to get rid of over here on the top. And we can leave that natural feature in depending on how my plan works out. Good morning, Mary Alice. Good afternoon, Glenn Senior. Because I know it's afternoon over there. Nice to have you all drop by. I love it. I am out here having fun, being creative, trying to decide what I'm going to make out of this guy today. So, can I get to the front yet? My banjo won't quite fit through there underneath of this. Probably by the time I finish cleaning it up, it will. So let's go to the overhead. Back to the overhead. And I'm going to finish cleaning this up. And I'll see if I can get my banjo to the other side without having to take everything out of here. I know it's weird. I'm just different. I love not having a set plan on what I'm making. When I used to turn all week and sell at the craft shows, I had to make X number of bowls, X number of holoforms, X number of vases. I had certain things I had to make, and then I would always make sure that I made a couple of fun things for me. Now that I don't go out to the craft shows and whatnot anymore, I can just make whatever I want that keeps me happy, which is what wood turning is really all about. Got to remember, I'm running a 220 lathe on a 110 box, so I run out of power a little bit now and then. I forget that I don't have all the amperage behind or voltage behind it. They're just about to where we'll pass. We'll clear. Also taking another 3/8 or so off of the blank. Getting ready for the holidays, Heath? When do the holidays start? I'm a Christmas Eve shopper, if that answers your question. Which I admit to. I'm a Christmas Eve shopper for the most part. So just getting this cleaned up. Like I said, well, let me see what's underneath, and I'll be able to move my banjo to where I can get to the front side and clean it up. Okay, and it looks like I have enough clearance, so I got just a little bit more to go. Right over here. And that's where that pith hole is. Okay. Alrighty. That's a pretty big crack right in there. But we have things, you know, I'll take this to a point, and if I decide it's something that I want to fill after the fact, I'll take my mask off here for a second, then I will, depending on what I do. But I see I'm in overhead, so I want to take all this away. See this whole pith chunk right in here? Excuse me for the cough. I'm going to take this much wood away from here up. That's just gone. So I've got some mowing to do down here. That's why now that I can get my banjo, I mean, it clears by 1/8 of an inch underneath there. Okay. And that's all I needed for this. I mean, had it been a bigger blank, I could have gone outboard. Get out here and talk to you for a second. If this was an 18 or a 20-inch blank, being an 18-inch lathe, and I wanted to keep that size, I could have gone down to the end and gone outboard with this, or I could have turned it 90 degrees and gone outboard as well and kept the size, and to where I could, you know, not worry about the banjo. But this is fine for what I've got here. It needed to come down this much in size anyway. So not too bad. So I'm going to attack this face, going to get rid of this wood right in here. That's what I'm after next. And I got to remember, I'm always learning. I've got the camera right there and I got that monitor, but I keep looking at myself and the TV. I need to move the camera up a little bit higher. This is a note to self, because I go back and watch these and see, you know, what I did and what I said. So note to self. Move that camera up closer and into the middle of that screen. You got a dead spot? Okay, Bradley's done talking to himself. I know. Talking to yourself in third person is bad. Wait till Bridget hears about that. All right, let's get over here and go to work. Probably overhead again is going to be the best for that. Yes, Glenn, I'm going to take the pith away. I'm going to make all that pith go away, which makes extra work, but hey, so it is. Now, depending on what it looks like inside there, you know, I may change my mind a little bit. All right. Turn this around. And off we go. Excuse the cough. And I'm easily turning 800 now. I don't have any trouble with vibrations in the machine now at 800. So I'm going to say probably right about, and I'll check this, I'll make that cut just enough so I have a reference and see if that's going to take enough of the pith out to make me happy. A little bit more. I need to go a little bit more. And there we are. So let's say we want to take that much out. I just like to make myself a reference point to work to so I know what needs to go away, and I'm going to double check that one more time before I go to just mowing this wood off of here. So that's kind of right on the end of that split of that pith and all. So if this is a rim of some fashion, although I don't think it's going to be with the plan that I'm kind of dreaming up. But let's go ahead and get rid of this. This is just some more waste wood we got to grind away on here real quick, or as quickly as we can. So we'll get this tool rest around here. Bring our speed back up. And let's see if this is how this approach works. Letting the tool do the work. Come right up to that line. I'm going to adjust that camera. You can't quite see that tool cutting as well as I'd like you to, so hang on a minute. I'm going to do an adjustment for you. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Well, you're just going to have to watch it wiggle. Let me come in and go that way. Can't quite reach. Oops, sorry. This is live. See if you can see that a little bit better. Or the other thing I can do, silly. How about I just move? Let's just do this. Sometimes you got to be smarter than a piece of wood. We'll just move the lathe. It's only 400 pounds. Now you can see down in there. Not too bad moving it. Now I'm going to get that zoomed in again. A little bit better for you. Okay, now you can kind of see. There's a little bit of shadow from the lights. I apologize for that. Yeah, I know it's cutting in the shadow. Let's see. I don't have any light on the back side, unfortunately, to light that up. Let's see. What else could we do? Oh, I got an idea. No, I can't. I'm two setters. Well, let's do this. Let's see if this fixes the shadow. We'll get it where you can see in there yet. There we go. The shadow. I can't get rid of that shadow right in there. I'm stuck with that one. But I'll do whatever it takes to get it where you can see. Excuse me with the cough. This wood's a little dusty and dry. I probably should have that mask on, but I want you to see what's going on. I aim to please. I aim to please. Now I'm going to move my controls a little bit closer because they were down at the far end of everything. All right. Speed back up. Up there, right around 850 now, somewhere in there. So I could draw across here and smooth this whole thing out if I wanted to. Make my starts easier. It's not really critical, but if you want to, you can. It's really, because it's really bumpy right in there. Or you can just kind of come in here and make it go. Get up there. Looks like I'm making the shadow. My head was in the way. Apologize for that. See, I want to come down to about here. And I'm going to come across. I want to see what this top looks like because of this kind of this plan I've got. Sort of plan. Okay, so there's the last of that little pith piece. That section of. We got this big old giant split in here that I'm not real keen on, but I've got it. Okay. All right. Thinking out loud and looking at this, I got a little knot hole there. Okay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna take a little bit more out here. I'm starting to formulate a plan. Let me feel like I'm in touch with you a little bit. I'm starting to formulate a plan. I'm looking at the top here, looking at what I got at the bottom. Thinking about what kind of a shape can I make with this. Do you see a pattern starting to develop here at all? In that this is going to be possibly a narrow, a thin section, large in diameter, with a base, some type of entry area, top area, possibly slightly hollow form in here or something like that. I'm starting to fog up for a second. So I'm seeing a piece, let's say if we go boom, 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 around. Something like that's what's kind of coming to mind with this guy. So I'd have a large top area. Even with this crack in it, we can fill this crack decoratively. And that way we get to utilize a lot of surface area of our Ambrosia spalted maple. Not an issue. We either carve this away, which you can't see right now, that guy, or we leave it in as a feature, make a base that makes this thing set up. That's kind of the ideas that are running around in my head. I'm going to take a little bit more off of this, and then I'm going to have to make a commitment to what I want to do. So I'm going to think about it while I'm banging on this just a little bit more. All right, and off we go. Back up around 850 or so. Let's see, I got to change buttons. There we go. And all this area I'll work on when I get it turned around. But I kind of like to have establish a point, a top and a bottom when I'm working on a design for a piece. So I have some idea where I'm going. I've made a piece similar to what I'm thinking of here before, and it worked out pretty well. Okay, so I'm going to stop that right there, and I'm going to get my lathe back in its normal spot, back where it belongs. Alrighty. And it's time to make a commitment now. Let's see which camera I'm on. I'm on here. Let me back this back up. Back that out. It's time to make a commitment in this area right in here. What do I want to do with this guy? Okay. And I think I have made kind of a decision loosely
Again, I have to wonder about these big cracks, okay? But if I do, what I'm thinking about is carving this away, and that'll take care of possibly most of this crack. This knot hole in here, that will disappear. So this will be like a narrow strip of the largest diameter of the piece, okay? And we'll bring it down here, flare it. That gives us this base that we can build into here, if that's making sense. Let me show you on the end. So the tenon, this tenon area, which is obviously much larger than it needs to be, when I bring this curve around and take most of this corner off, I'm going to let it flow into this large area. My tenon will only be 3.5 inches. So I can have a base here that lets the piece sit up off of the tables or wherever it's sitting. So I think that's where I'm going with this. Okay, if that makes sense. If that makes sense. So I think the best thing to do is go back overhead, which I think you are. No, you're on the end. I got to learn to read red, and that's me. So let's go overhead. Someday I'll get the producer in me to be able to do 17 things at once. Okay. Alrighty. Take a little more shape out of this, a little more out of the sides. And start to build this shape. I'm going to determine where my center point is, roughly. Start to roll this over. What's the time like anyway? 11 o'clock. Okay. You'll notice I'm taking slower, more deliberate cuts now. Lighter, cleaner cuts. As I start to work on the shape. Still a long way from final cuts. Alright, and let's come back in here and start to do the same thing. That's my point that I'm going to. Move my controller. And let me switch to the end for you. End view. Try and keep my shoulder out of the way. I may have to take the tailstock off of here pretty soon. Because it's about to get in the way. Yep, I think it's time to take the tailstock off of here. So long, Mr. Tailstock. You'll see this beautiful wood starting the pattern of the spalting starting to show up in here. Okay. Now if I can just keep my shoulder out of the picture for you. Actually, let me do this. This will make it a little bit easier. I love, some people aren't fans, I love having a headstock that pivots. So I can pivot this
to where I can get to it without having to lean over. Get myself a little area, and then I'll adjust the camera to where you can see a little bit better. I'll just swing the camera like that. Okay. Move the tool rest in, and now I can work without getting quite so much in line of the camera. And I can also, I'm going to change this overhead shot so when I can switch back and forth. Pull that out just a little bit. There we go. All right. Off we go. A little more speed. Do-do-do. Working my way up there, come around back here a little bit. Still got that knot right there. That you can feel that as it goes by. You can see this beautiful piece of wood in here. So that might just stay. All right. I'm gonna bring my tool rest over here a little bit further. Work on this a little bit more, then I'll come over here and make my tenon. Alright, so stop. Let's get in here and work on our tenon. 3.5 inch tenon we're going to make. I see that camera goes out of focus. This end camera gives me trouble about that. I apologize for that. It has a little bit of trouble sometimes. Just cleaning this up. All right, find my calipers here. Find my calipers, where my calipers go. They usually live back in here. There we are. My calipers I've had for a long time. Set these to 3.5. Now I'm going to make this tenon with a little 3/8 Carter & Son. Uses the shaft size 3/8 bowl gouge. Often these days I make them with my Easy Wood tools because it's real quick and straightforward with the square cutter. But I'm going to make it the way I've used to make them in the past with my little bowl gouge, with the straight side. A little bit more here. Just getting my caliper set. There we go, about 3 5/8. Gives me a little wiggle room for a 3 1/2. Okay. Doo-doo-doo-doo. I'm having fun. And let's see. This is how I do it. I don't measure. I take my calipers, I stick them up here, I look for a reference point. I go somewhere right about there. Make a little cut. Double check it. Says, yep, you're way off. Haven't had nearly enough coffee today, Brad. Haven't made them this way in a long time. And that's good enough for that. We'll come back for that. Now, we'll hold up short. We'll use our little 1/4 inch, 3/8, excuse me. I always do that when we get close here. It's so far out of focus. That makes me mad. I may have to change that camera out one of these days. I wonder why it does that. All right. My little 1/4 inch, 3/8 gouge now. Now I'll recheck that tenon diameter. Okay. And take a little bit more off of that. And now with this flat edge that's right in here, if you can see that, without this, I'll stop this for a second because it fuzzes so much. So the top wing is nice and flat, and that's what I'll just run right down the wall of the tenon, and then I'll undercut it, and this flat will also let me make my flat section for my jaws to sit on. And again, I apologize for that thing being fuzzy. It's off of the autofocus, but it's still doing it. Double check that I haven't messed myself up, just because I want to be sure. See, now I'm just right where I want to be. Okay. Now I'll undercut it for my dovetail, still with the little bowl gouge. Just reach right in there. I wonder if you can see that in the overhead. No, you can't see it in the overhead. Okay, then I come back around, and I can come in, clean this up, and use that wing, that flat wing, to make a really nice tenon. So now I have my tenon, my surface for the jaws, and now if I want to make this my base, I can go ahead and flare that any way I want to, which I do want to. I want to blend that in as a base. And I need to defog here for just a second. So I'll talk to y'all. Need to let that mask defog. And what I'm going to do is have this base flare in to where the tenon comes, and I'll have it lift that whole piece up. And you can see on that end camera now, you can't see it so much here,
But in this profile here, you see how we've come to a point right here. So that's kind of the basis of what we've got going on. And this bottom, I'll have this bottom pretty much done before I turn it around and put it in the chuck. That way I don't have to get back in here. We'll clean it up the best we can. It's going to be one of those, I'm thinking kind of almost an open, what I call an open form. It's not a hollow form because it's not with a real small hole. It's not a bowl because it's got a smaller hole than a bowl and a bigger hole than a hollow form. I've made a lot of these, and people always liked them when I was selling. So that's kind of what I'm after today.
All right, I can see again. So I'll jump back over here to the end real quick. Yeah, isn't that beautiful, Spalting Heath? I know this camera's fuzzy on the end, but this is 1/2 inch Carterson bowl gouge. And I'm just going to clean and make this flare now. Just blend this in. Right off of my tenon base. Okay. So the tenon is done. This cut right here is nice and smooth. That last little cut, I grabbed that 1/2 inch, which was freshly sharpened. So that's nice and smooth. I don't have to worry about that section at all. So that's my base right in here. And I wish there's not much contrast in this look in the camera. I know that, which is unfortunate. But we will come on around and clean up this bottom a little bit more. Hopefully we can keep getting a nice cut like that. Got one little transition right in here. Alright. I'm going to switch back to a slightly larger tool for a minute. I'm getting a little bit of vibration in there. You know, I got another one. I pulled out an old gouge this morning. I'm gonna try something here real quick. I'm always into trying and changing my tools around, just for fun. This may not do what I want. It's a little traditional grind. Just for fun. Like I say, I like to mix it up, different ones. Okay. I think I can live with that. It's not perfect today, but the clock is ticking. That's smooth enough. That'll stand up without too much trouble, without having to be crazy. I know that picture. I'm looking over and watching the replay or the delay, and I see that's all fuzzy, and I am so sorry about that because you can't see a damn thing in that replay. That I'm gonna have to fix that. That's just downright pitiful. Okay, I'm going to turn this back to the front. I do apologize about that camera on the end. That's the one. That one has given me fits right along, and I'm just not a fan of that. I mean, when it stops, obviously it's a beautiful piece, and you can see that wood. I just wish that camera wasn't going wonkers on me. And I have played with every setting on that silly thing, and tried everything you're supposed to do to make it not do that. All right, I'm going to clean up right in here a little bit more. I'm going to go to overhead for you now. Looking at my time, 11:20. Got to stay on time. Getting in back in practice for the woodworking shows when you have to stop at a certain time. You only have an hour. You got to get it done. All right, let's go back to the short handle. And we're in overhead again. And I need a sip of water. Wood chips and all. Okay. The mask back on. Let's finish off this bottom section right here. You can see that I need to move this whole thing forward again because of that shadow. All right. We got what we got today. Talking about it won't make it change. Finish this profile here. And the beauty of wood turning is you can do anything you want. You can flare it, you can roll it, you can do anything you want. That's the best part about this hobby. There are some who say it has to be a certain shape. Well, that works great for them. I'm not one of them. If you haven't figured that out yet. There are shapes that are going to always be pleasing. But I still believe you should take some risks and chances and try new things. If you don't try new things, you just don't know what you might be able to do. Okay? And I'm doing a little something here. As I was talking about that, I just decided I was going to do a little something right here. Is my head in the way? No? Okay. Actually, want to take some more of this out anyhow. Putting a little bit of a Saturn ring on here, if you will, for lack of a better term. Okay? This is right where that grain is kind of funky. Right where that knot is. Alright. We got that crack right there. But I hope my head's not in the way. There we go. Now I'm starting to get what I want. Now my little traditional grind tool again here will let me get in this corner, I'm hoping. I'm glad I pulled this guy out this morning. See if I can't make this little radius turn in here. Bumps and all. I know I'm going to go the wrong way. No, don't go over that high, Brad. Alright. Let me try my other 1/4 inch. I go back and forth till I get what I want. So I'm trying to make an actual defined flat right in here, if you will. Okay, because what I'm thinking is that if I make a nice flat there, I might be able to put an inlay band in that. Okay, so I'll come up here and just blend that in like that with that wing. Okay, does that make sense? Hello, Don. Thanks for dropping in. Okay, so I've got a little crack right in there and all that, but I have made this little wing, this little flat platform, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side of this piece. Okay? And I know there's not a lot of contrast in this wood, makes it kind of hard for you to see, and I may zoom this back in. For one thing, I'm going to move this way, which might also help you guys a little bit. And zoom it back in. I want you to be able to see this profile. Alright. So you can kind of start to see the profile. Need some more light back there. Get sawdust out of the way. Alright. Now I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to take my 1/2 inch and I'm going to take some of this away, and then I'm going to make a flat. A flat right in here. So we'll come right across this, like so. Flatten this out. Okay. Now we'll come in here and start to take some of that away. Start to make sense to you at all? I know, I wish you could see. Put my hand into there. It's the wrong color for the profile. It is kind of like a ring of Saturn. Okay? And we want to make these two the same size, make the same diameter right there. And that profile, most would say it should be symmetrical, and it probably should be. A little bit more off of here. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Now I'm looking out here. Let me give you a front view. So now I'm going to start looking out here on the front edge at this profile. So this rolls up. There's my ring, my flat. So I can make a little bead in that and do an inlay. I can do it on the top, something like that. All right. So with that, I'm going to turn this thing around and put it in the chuck. Okay. Time for that. So let's do that before I run out of time here. 11:30, 11:28. So we're all good. If anybody's got any questions, just a great time to holler at me while I'm changing this around. I'm having fun. I hope you're enjoying watching today. Again, it's Bradley makes it up as he can go, as he goes, because he likes to. Doesn't like to have necessarily a specific plan. Now, obviously, I won't completely finish this piece today by noon, but it's the process that I wanted you to see. We've got this piece that had holes in it, has splits in it, wood edge. It was not a perfect blank, and yet we're able to come and play with it and start to make something that's unique and well worth the piece. If anybody saw the piece that is the natural edge that I stabilized, that's the punky stuff. A buddy from up in Baltimore yesterday or somewhere over the weekend said firewood, and I said absolutely not. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it's not firewood. All right, get our easy chuck out here. Did I mention that Spirocraft has a fall sale going on, and everything in the Spirocraft store online is 15% off and free shipping? No shipping, 15% off everything that we carry in our fall sale. Shameless plug for the store. But hey, you got to make a living. All right, let's open this chuck up just a little bit with the zoom ring. Bring her in there, make sure we didn't put it in crooked. Looks good. So, in the overhead, you'll be able to see, let's see how I did. I'll tighten this up. I didn't waste hardly any space. I got nice space here. Jaws are just about right on my chuck for a nice strong grip. I made sure that any of these splits and cracks and knot holes that we had are not in that tenon to reduce the risk of anything happening, splitting and cracking and all that good stuff. All right. So like I say, you see here, there's, go back to overhead for you. Punch enough buttons there, Bradley, you'll get it right. There you go. Where are those splits? There's some splits right in here. I know they kind of look like the lines in the wood. So these are going to get filled with a powder and CA. That's what's going to happen there, and I can make it. I can either blend it in, or I can make it decorative. I know you really can't see them. I'm looking at what you're seeing, and I know you can't quite see them. So we'll do that before we take the inside away on the piece. So once I get the basic overall shape and I've got all the outside done, I will go ahead, and as I know I'll make this fairly thin, I'll go ahead and fill all these cracks and splits, and then I have to decide, like I said, do I want to make them decorative and be like turquoise, or do I want to make them black and look like the rest of the spalting lines, or somewhere in between? I can do anything I want. The sky's the limit when you're being fun and creative. Probably, well, it would look weird. So here's a spalting colony. I'm gonna go back to overhead. Is I always get this confused yet because they need one more color on there for me. If there's a crack, right? Runs right through here. And this is the spalting colony. All that line, that's all one colony. That's another colony right in there and right in there. So if you know about spalting, you know that colonies never cross over each other. So if I fill that line with black, it might make that colony look weird in that it had been split in a way it wouldn't normally do. So maybe I should make it colorful. To say that, hey, here's a crack here, and we put a colorful color in there as opposed to the black. Then again, a lot of people, if you're just looking at it, if they're not wood turners or no wood, they're going to say, well, what are you talking about? It's just a beautiful black line. So kind of, you have to play with that one to see which way you want to go. Hard to say, Hey, there's my dad. How you doing, Dad? I'm out here having fun. Okay, I'm going to tighten this up one more time. And then we're going to start to attack the inside to the top here. We're going to bring tailstock back up to be safe. And get the overall shape on this worked out before I run out of time. And let you all get back to work. Now, one thing that can happen, so my hole in the center here may not be in the center, and it's not. So the first thing I have to do is turn that little hole away from the drill bit, from when it was cut on these bandsaw with the center finder, so that my tailstock will line up in there properly. So let me pop my mask back on. Turn my speed back to 0. And I'll just take and make a little cone right in there, just to take care of that little hole. We know all this is going away. So we want to make sure that that finds the true center. How far did you drill that hole, Dad? My dad helps me when I'm making these blanks up in North Georgia. The hole goes way on down in there. So here's what we're going to do. Because that drill hole goes pretty deep. So we're going to put a rubber chucky, urethane cone, on the end of our live center. You can get these from Rubber Chuckies. Don, I'm forgetting your last name. Don. Rubberchuckies.com. Sorry, I forgot your last name all of a sudden, Don. And we're going to pop that right in there. And that will align. And we shouldn't get any wobble out of it. Let's see what happens. So as long as our live center is not wobbling on the tailstock, we're all good. All right. Now I've got a bunch of wood to get rid of here. All right. So I'm going to do some serious mowing here real quick. All right. And I'll go back to the big bowl gouge, 5/8 with the 16-inch handle, Carter & Son. Kind of my workhorse today. Nope, doesn't like that much. Let's go 800. And I'm just going to draw across here. That thing's all the way down. Clean this up. And I'm going to put this in the overhead because we'll see how that looks. Because this end camera keeps messing up. Let me zoom that out a little bit. And I'll look at the delay here in a minute and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to get rid of a bunch of wood, stick the tool in there like that. That's what happens when you scratch your ear and don't take the tool far enough away from a spinning piece of wood at 800 RPMs. Well, let's try the end anyway. You can't see anything there. We'll give it a try. See if it'll hang in there for you or if it goes all fuzzy. Alright, take a look at what's going on in there. So there's a beautiful band of just the core, the heartwood. Unfortunately, that's not much of that's going to stay, I don't believe. There's my screw holes. Okay. So I'm going to start to think about, well, where's my opening going to be? Remember I said it's not going to be a bowl and it's not going to be a hollow form. I'm thinking maybe right in here, because what I want to do is I want to establish, take this off while I'm fogging up. I want to establish this point, my innermost point, and I've got this. So then I can work from here to here on my profile. Once I'd establish what size that hole is, how big it is, what the parameters are. And that's what I always like to do, figure out where A and B are, and then I just connect the dots in the profile that I want. Now we've got a profile in the back. We can make it symmetrical. We can make it asymmetrical. We can make it different. We can have this curve in. We can have it roll over. We can do anything our little heart desires. And, you know, so I'm looking at the wood. Got this big giant crack in here. So what do I do? What do I do? I think I'm actually going to take this way and leave this. So I'll have, we've got this lip here, and it'll come up, and then it's going to roll up again into the opening, which will take away a lot of this crack. If I roll it this way, it's going to leave a lot of that crack. So I think I'll really take it away and sweep it up. Is what I'm thinking. So because I'm working around the flaws in the piece of wood and trying to come up with the best use of it and a good looking idea at the same time without wasting this piece of wood. If you had to go out and buy this, you know, you would have paid a lot of money for it. And I'm going to switch over to the shorter handled gouge. I got a little more room to work in here. So I'm just going to pare this away. Try not to lean on it too hard. Now eventually I end up taking the tailstock out of the way here. There's my point, where my entry is, so I'm gonna make a wall thickness, let's say right there for now. Okay, so now I need to move my tailstock out of the way. I've gotten a lot of the mass out. I'm going to have a lot of surface area, which is going to highlight all this beautiful color and ambrosia and spalting in this piece of wood. So we get a beautiful looking piece of wood. Yes, we have the knot and we have the crack here. That's actually pretty good size. So we'll do something decorative to fill that. Okay. And we'll end up with a nice piece. A beautiful piece of wood. Alright, so I'm right there. Try and keep my arm out of the way. I don't want to overshoot this point right here. I don't want to overcut this top. So I'm kind of sneaking up on it. If it'll lift up the grain when I blend this in, but I may go ahead and do it anyway. And then we'll come back and clean it up. Okay. I'm going to change to a smaller tool. Work on this curve, refine this curve. Let's clean this top off it right here. This is our rim. Right there. Work on this curve, come right on around here. And I may switch to the overhead here for you on this. Because I think you can see that, yeah, you can see that curve starting to form in the overhead. Let me change you to the overhead. And I got to defog here for a second anyway, so let me hit stop. Too bad I don't have a black floor where you could really see the profile. So you can see how we've come up, and now we're swooping up into the top here. We've got this Saturn rim, all right. We've got these cracks that I've talked about, but I got all this beautiful color. So it's a fun piece. I mean, nobody said it has to be. This is my big thing. Nobody says it has to be. Well, some people do. It has to be this. It has to be that. Hogwash. It has to be what you want it to be, with nice, graceful lines, and look cool. And that's the end of the story. That's the way I look at it. Okay, I've defogged. Clock says I got 15 minutes to stay true to 12 o'clock. All right. We're pretty well balanced. Let me see if I can. Got a little bit shaked, but I want to get a little bit cleaner cut on this top. Trying to get up past that vibration, but I got it bouncing pretty good. We'll see what happens. Vibration may be a little too much for it. That, I don't like that speed. A little too fast. All right. I'm going to slow her down, and I'm going to come at it. Come here. Come at it from the outside, just because to make this curve, I need to be able to hit this real quick. I'll be glad when I have my remote here. I need to be able to look at this profile, and if I'm standing over here, I can't see the profile. So I need to be able to look at both of these and make a profile that I like, even if it lifts the grain up a little bit. I can always come back and clean that up. But if I'm over here, I'm kind of cutting blind. I can't really see, don't stick it in there, what the profile's doing. So it's important that I know what my profile looks like. Okay. Now I can see what I'm doing a whole lot better. This thing's actually moved on me a little bit because it's got these splits in it, and as I'm taking the wood away, it's releasing some tensions in it, and it's moving a little bit on me. Alright, I'm going to try coming in here back-sided. Cutting from the right and looking from the left. Alright, I'm starting to like this. So for fun, just for fun, I'm going to grab this bowl scraper right here and just see what happens if I clean up these curves with this a little bit. It's not a negative rake scraper, it's just a regular old bowl scraper. But sometimes they're handy for refining a curve if it doesn't tear up the grain. Okay, let's take a look at this and see what that looks like when it stops. Okay, lifted the grain right there, that end grain a little teeny bit. Not the end of the world. But let me show you what this thing is looking like from the end now. Now that, I know the lights are hitting it, is a beautiful piece of wood. Lights are a little too bright on it. But that's an awesome looking piece of wood. Kevin McCon, don't know how long you've been there, but hey, how you doing, buddy? So this is a crack. That's a hole. Cracks, cracks, cracks. So those will get filled. All right, I'm going to make one more pass across here with this scraper. And I should grab a negative rake scraper if it's out of the warehouse, and that would clean up cleaner. I'm just going to do this one more time. Because then I want to open up the middle and then we're going to be done. Or we'll stop anyway. Obviously it's not going to be done. There, that cleaned it up a little bit better when I changed that angle a little bit. Okay. So, next thing is to dive into the middle and wrap this up. And we'll have our overall profile. And then the next step would be, or will be, for me to fill these cracks from the outside with powder. I could use pearlescent powder. I can use different filler powders. And CA glue, pretty much anything I want, and take care of that. So I'm on the end here. I'm just going to take this stuff away really quick, give you the overall idea. So you can see what I mean. It's not going to be a hollow form, and it's not going to be a bowl. Somewhere in between. I just want to show you the profile here. Let me get this wall cut. And again, talking about doing decorative things to it. I'm going to stop right there. With this flat section that we have here, again, you can't see there's not much contrast. We could do an inlay in there. We could do something decorative on that. All right, so let's take this off, and I'm going to go to the front camera. And I'm looking over here on the screen. Now, I need to... Do I need to leave this in the chuck? I should leave it in the chuck, but I'm not going to. If I take it out, it might be off a little bit, but it's not in its final perfect form. If I was really thought I was done with the shape, I would leave it in the chuck while I fill these cracks. But I'm going to have to do enough work to it, and taking that center out. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out of here. And I didn't bother to mark it because the Easy Wood chuck isn't numbered. But So there's our piece. Hold it up against the black. See if I can get it. Let me figure out which way to move. If I can do that. That thing's heavy. Maybe I'll come over this way. Make it easier. I just never tried this before. I'll try anything once. Put my hands in the way. Well, you get the idea. It's got a nice. Here, I'll use my jacket. There you go. So it's got an interesting shape to it. We've got this band on the outside. Let me go to the overhead camera, and you can see what we got in there. Come back here, and now if I switch to the end camera as well, you can see the patterns and the colors in the piece. One of these days I'll figure out how to go upside down and backwards. I promise. So, beautiful piece of wood. There's our shape. Go back to the overhead. In the middle, give you an idea. Try and hold it like that. Too many chips on the floor. Anyway, we were able to take that crazy piece, and even with its splits and cracks, it's a beautiful piece of wood. So we have a highlight feature here. We have a beautiful bottom right in here. Again, it's kind of hard to see in the lights, at least from what I'm seeing. Nice smooth curve coming out of there. A base that will lift it up off of whatever it sits on. So like if I set it right there, you get the idea how the piece will sit. Okay? Lots of fun. Lots of fun. Am I going to save it and finish it next Monday? Let's see, Mary Alice, how do I answer that, if I'm honest? Have you seen me finish anything yet out here? I say laughing. If I have the time, yes, I will. I want to fill the cracks, and I think, depending on what my schedule is this week, because I'm stay really busy during the week, that's why I don't get anything finished. If I fill the cracks during the week here, and it's going to be boring watching me take the center out, so if I got the time to take the center out and get this hollowed out, and then I would be ready to put the finish on it. And this I will put a natural finish on, either an oil or a wax or a lacquer. I have to decide. I like lacquers, but they're harder to work with. You have to polish them back out. A nice satin wax finish might be really nice on this piece. It really does kind of call out for that. And again, I know you can't quite see it. What I'll do though for sure is watch the page. I'll take pictures of it as I do the cracks. And again, I got to decide what I want to do with the colors on the cracks. And I haven't decided yet. How are we doing on time? I got a couple more minutes. I just like to try and be. I'm getting better at being prompt at starting, so I like to be cordial and finish at noon, so I don't hold anybody. Any more questions? I know there's a 20, 30-second delay. I'll take any more questions. And otherwise, we'll be back here next Monday. And I'll play with this if I get to it. If not, I still haven't, like I said, I'm bad. I'm going to step over here. Last week's piece hasn't gotten past what I did with it last week. But now, again, this is, let me see, that is the end camera. This is the piece from last week. Another piece of maple. It's got the resin in it. Beautiful piece. I get up to this point, I'm never going to finish. I have hundreds and hundreds. Ask my dad. I have hundreds of these things. Because I don't have to finish them anymore. I guess that's my problem. At the woodworking shows, I get them to this point. If you come to the woodworking shows, I usually give them away to the audience. I do a little drawing at each show, at each demonstration. Write a number on the back of a card, business card I got sitting there, and whoever guesses the number gets to take the piece that I turned at the show. So you could get to take them home, and then you can finish them, and you have them. It's a lot of fun, and it keeps me from dragging pieces home. So I used to bring home like 300 pieces a year from the show. We do 12, 13 shows and do 11 to 12 demonstrations in the past. It adds up. You get a whole bunch of pieces. Let's see. Let's check for any questions. Mr. Knuckles have a wonderful weekend, Bradley. Is it the weekend, Heath? I thought today was Monday. Of course, Tuesdays are my weekend sometimes, but I have meetings tomorrow. But thank you, sir. It's good. I'm glad you dropped by. Hope you come to Indy. I'm going to be talking to you about Indy. I'm working on that schedule. Folks who are in towns that the woodworking shows comes to, if you're interested in being one of the guest regional demonstrators for me, let me know. I'm going to be contacting the clubs and guilds that go to the show, and anybody else who would like to reach out. Not looking for a professional turner. I want it to be an educational experience for the demonstrator as well. Heath joined us last week. See, now Heath, see what you did to me? Now I'm calling last week. Heath joined me last year, or it was this year, but last season in Indy, and it is resin. It was the first time ever in front of a crowd like that. It was a fantastic time. He did a great job. It was a lot of fun. When you do it, I've had people that are as nervous as they could be. When they got done, they said it's the greatest thing they ever did. Turning live in front of a group of 40 or 50 people if they're sitting, 100 if they're standing, and in the big hall with all the noise and the lights and the cameras and all that. It's a great experience. So give me a holler if you're interested. All right? And Heath is laughing away. All right, folks, it is noon straight up. I'm going to say thank you. I appreciate your time, and I hope you picked up some tips and you enjoyed today's Monday Methods. And it's time for lunch. I'll see you all next week. Have a good week. Talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye. And if I do this right, I can go to